Deputy Speaker. I feel really fortunate that I haven't personally had to go through a family court experience, because the area that I get the most distressing calls about in my electorate office is from people who have been through that process, from mothers, from fathers, from grandparents, and the group I don't hear from as much are the children. But we all know in this place that it's the children who are going to be the biggest losers out of any of the consequences of this terrible decision to roll a court that is a specialist, that was established to have specific skills and expertise, into a system that deals with a multitude of other matters. The Federal Circuit courts are dealing with a huge array, and I have friends who are judges in the system, and I know the variety of matters and the burden that they already carry. So I think on this side of Parliament, I think we are just shocked that this government has shown so little respect for the advice it's received from a multitude of bodies, from judges themselves, from child welfare experts, from anybody who has had anything to do with the court system. Now, no one thinks that the court doesn't need reform, but it doesn't need reform to get rid of it. It needs reform to strengthen it. More than anything, it needs a lesser load for judges to carry, and we could extrapolate that across the entire system, because we've seen so many judges not replaced. When we think about the family court, one of the things that I think about is the responsibility those judges carry. And one of my very earliest memories of of understanding what the family court was to do with the death of the person I knew as Auntie Pearl's husband. And this was one of the terrible murders that occurred in Sydney of family court judges. And one of my very close friends, it was her uncle who was the target, and it was Auntie Pearl who died. So my friend Karen Catalano carried that, and that's a horrible way to start to understand that family court matters can be really lethal. So for me, there's always been a huge amount of respect and awe for the responsibility that family court judges carry. And I think this sort of decision says to those judges, you are not special, we don't respect what you do, we don't think that it carries any additional weight, yet anyone who's had anything to do with the court knows the burden of responsibility that they carry. It is extremely short-sighted of this government to be making a decision that gets rid of that court. In fact, I know I'm going to get emails about this in my office. Now, some people will say, well, something had to change, but they'll say, was this really the change that was needed? How is it going to help them get a better decision through the family court? How is it going to help them have a less traumatic experience of what is already an awful situation as a family to find yourself in? You don't end up with the family court because everything's gone really well. You end up because of a series of really difficult situations. And I think what we see on this side is that the people most affected, that it is people who are affected here, and it's kids, and it will have a lasting legacy for those children. And I don't think it's too far to go to say that people will look back at this decision in future years and express absolute disgust that a government saw fit to remove an institution that for so many decades has provided not a perfect outcome for families, but a way of getting some sort of resolution. What we should be seeing is an improvement to that court. Support, and I know that means money, but my goodness, an investment in this process can transform lives, make a huge difference to how families together move on from an already awful experience of divorce and family breakdown. I know I'm not going to be the only one on this side who just disgust is the only word that comes to mind. We have put up extraordinarily reasonable arguments, but so have the experts in this field. And if you won't listen to us, you should have at least been listening to the experts who counselled at every step against taking this path.